we'll jump right in. I'll start sharing my screen. Good morning to everybody who's joined, and I'm sure people will pick up the pieces as we get along here. All right, slideshow mode. And I'm sure Ella will let me know if the screen's not sharing correctly, but it's good to meet you all. It says hosted by Cindy Savan. It's actually not the case this time. Welcome to our Power Hour at the skill building session. I believe that we host these every bi-weekly. I host a couple of workshops as well, but those take place at different times, usually centered around AI. Normally this would be headed up by Cindy, but she's taking a well-deserved vacation, so today you have me. These bi-weekly sessions are designed to help out with our SysAid customers, show you some expert tips, best practices, and a live Q&A to help you build out your SysAid environments as well. A little about me. I've been at SysAid here now for about 4.5 years. In that time, I've been on the implementation side of things, so helping existing customers or new customers learn how to set up the system. And nowadays, I work with sales and product teams to further develop our product to meet your needs. So, even if you have today feedback, sorry, we've got a hand up. Even if you have feedback around things you'd like to see, I'm sure it's always good feedback. We take that into consideration, and whether it's a question or a comment that you'd like to put in the Q&A today, happy to answer those questions. I know in my sessions that I usually have, it's great to hear that, and it can help me tailor my session as well. So if you have a question, please put it in there. I'll do my best to answer, or Tanya will, and it helps me tailor the demo. And oftentimes, if you have a question, one of the other attendees is thinking the exact same thing, so don't hesitate. Okay, so today, a little bit of an agenda. We've already done the introductions. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping on why you would use workflows, show you off a little bit of a case study. I'll go through a demo on exactly how to build those workflows, so you leave this with some actionable feedback and you can build something within your own environment. And then at the end, we'll go over some Q&As if that are left over as well. But that's, again, as I mentioned before, throughout the entire process. So yeah, today's is your chance to gain some practical knowledge on how to create workflows within SysAid Spaces environments. Many of you may be using classic UI. No need for concern. 99% of the concepts remain the same with a new coat of paint. But I will point out differences as we progress through the demo portion of this presentation. Why are workflows important? So essentially, we want to take a automated or complex process that is multi-step and turn it into a single ticket. The goal is to streamline operations, reduce bottlenecks and human intervention, ensuring that workflows are consistently and accurately executed. And yeah, according to Gartner, by 2026, 40% of organizations will be using Gen AI. I will touch on that a little bit, and that will also help with the workflows as well. What are the benefits? Improved efficiency, that was kind of alluded to before. Consistency and accuracy, knowing where you are in a workflow and what needs to get done. Better collaboration. Workflows, as I'll demonstrate, can include people who are non-admins of the system as well, and that's hugely important. Enhanced visibility, that kind of goes back to consistency and accuracy. Knowing in a workflow which items are done, which items are not done is going to help you, say, with an onboarding, and knowing, the only stage that's left is to create this person's badge, and that's all that we're missing. And then we can follow up with the correct person as a result. And then this one's more, I'd say, for change management, but I'd say it's important for workflows in general. Maintaining an audit trail so we can see this person approved this at this time, and yes, it was done correctly and captured with the appropriate notes as well. Before we get into the case study, I'll put in a poll. The first poll is reasons that you guys are not currently using workflows. Just helps us get feedback on what's holding you guys back today. Hopefully the session kind of bridges that gap, but I will have Ella put the first poll into the chat while I talk about the Queen's webinar, or the Queen's case study. So Queen's University is a university here in Canada, in Kingston, Ontario. It's one of the nation's leading research-intensive universities, fully integrated network of 6 libraries, outstanding museums and arts facilities. Lots of people, lots of undergraduates, lots of faculty and staff, all that need to perform actions on a daily basis. Now, they used a lot of workflows. In particular, I'm going to go to the next slide. Contract management was a huge one that they were doing. So more than 80% of incoming computers are already imaged, configured by the time the person has even picked up the machine, so we're good to go. or before the person has booked to pick up the machine. This workflow helps them with regulatory needs, their procurement channels, and consistency in the process. And documentation has dropped in the time to perform the reconciliation. Approximately a third of the time it used to take to set up these computers is happening when they perform this process. And that was a different poll, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, from here on out, I'm going to be going over the demo of the product, showing you guys how to create a workflow from scratch. If you'd like to, you can follow along. I will be trying to go a little bit slower as we go through the process and of course answer the Q&As as well. I'm going to get back to the Q&A and make sure that we don't have anything just yet. Doesn't look like we do. And we'll move on from here. Okay, so this is the Spaces environment. If you guys are not already on Spaces, don't be afraid. This is essentially a copy of what this environment would look like over here. You've got your ticket queue, except it looks a little bit different. You can make live edits from here as well. Quite easy to use. Now, first thing that I want to talk about is if you're unfamiliar with the process, let me give you my 2 cents on why workflows are important when you would apply them. I come into an issue here like office issues. There's normally not really the need to have a workflow in this particular case. It's a buy and buy basis. This person has an office suite that's crashing randomly. There's not a scheduled process that needs to be done in order to resolve this type of ticket. We're going to use the notes, we're going to use the messages, we're going to use the activities in order to ask this person more questions, live troubleshoot with them, and solve this issue. But it doesn't follow a structured process each and every time. Now, contrast that with something like an onboarding, which is the example that we're going to be using today. A lot of onboardings, there's that issue of the same process needs to be followed each and every time. Now, if an onboarding goes poorly, that could result in a lot of issues downstream. This person is onboarded to your organization, but their things weren't set up correctly, so they've submitted 3 different tickets. You know, their passcode or their key card isn't set up, their computer was not actually imaged correctly, or they're missing the right software that they needed to have installed. It's basically a headache for IT teams downstream. So in order to remedy that, I'll go to an onboarding ticket and show you what that looks like. Now, rather than having that back and forth experience that still does exist, I could go to the journey here and I could see the messages that have been sent back and forth on this ticket, but it's going to default to what's called the action items or the workflow. So these are the items that need to be completed in order for this ticket to be resolved. It needs to go through 2 levels of approval, through HR approval and through direct manager approval. IT needs to perform 3 different tasks, and facilities needs to perform 2 different tasks as well. Just pulling this onto my screen here, making sure that we're good so far. Looks like we are. Okay. Now, some people can be confused with requests equaling workflows. That's not the case. This request could have no workflow at all. But it is the case that, so not all requests are workflows, but all requests can be workflows. Incidents don't have the ability to have this flow being added to them. So if I had an incident and it needed to be changed into a workflow type ticket, like that office one earlier, I would go to the right-hand side and I would convert this to a request, and then it would ask me which workflow I'd like to apply. To show you that visibly, just going to Office Requests or Office Issues, coming into the right-hand side here, convert it to request and determining what workflow is appropriate to apply to this particular ticket. And we'll go back now to that onboarding request, and I'll show you how this might be resolved. Now, the first thing that happens here is only one of these action items has been lit up, HR approval. That means that nobody else has been notified thus far. You can see that visibly by seeing this check mark here. This is an active item. It is not completed yet, or else it would be highlighted in green. And these are items that will not go, and you can see here, there's a dependency indicator. This will not start until HR approval is done. Same goes for the rest of these tasks here. Now, when this lights up and when it turns into that not highlighted green check mark, that means that the irrelevant notifications have also been sent out for this task. So if I go back to the journey here, you can see what a customized notification might look like. HR approval required for an onboarding. It includes most of the information that needs to be provided via email. So whoever was part of that HR group would receive this email that says, hey there, your approval is required in order for IT to begin an onboarding request made by Alexander Jameson. Uh, so HR would receive that. They would know who submitted it. Here's the details of the new hire, Stefan Mayer. He's the enterprise director. This is his location, which didn't actually import in correctly, unfortunately. But in this particular case, if this person receives this via email or Teams or some other method, they can just quickly either click those approve or deny buttons, or follow that link to approval to come to a page where they can perhaps add notes to their approval as well. So if I come back over here, there wasn't actually a space for HR to provide notes on their approvals. But in this case, because I'm a super admin, I'm going to provide the approval to move this workflow forward and show you how this process might work. Complete. And now you can see a little bit different. This has been lit up as green. It is completed. And this one right here has now been activated. So now Paul has received an email that lets him know, hey, here are the details of the new hire. Do you approve this particular person being hired onto our team? And I'm just going to double check the chat. If I switch to spaces, yep, Tanya's on that one. Yes, that is correct. What rights are needed by HR to perform this approval? Great question, James. The great part about these workflow approvals is, as an admin or as somebody who works in the back end of the ticketing system, an analyst, look at those tickets and see them all. You need to have an admin license in order to see this. But in this particular case, people who are assigned to what you could consider these to be maybe mini tickets, they don't need to be admins of the system. Like, we don't need to license every manager within our organization. I can select from end users here. I can select from admins. I can select from user groups or admin groups from this list. And all of them will be notified through the correct means, whether that was through the email, whether that was through Teams, whether they're told to go to their self-service portal in order to access their approvals and the items that they need to complete, but they don't need to be an admin in order to receive an approval and action an approval. Or I call them approvals, but this really could be anything. We could even have this create AD account assigned to an end user. Now, that would make no sense, but I think you can see what I'm getting at is, if you want to include other people in a process, even maybe external vendors, where you want to send them an email that they can action just simply through a click, as long as you added them as a user within your system, you could select them here and send that approval their way as well. Yep, and Rick, exactly as well. Yeah, any user can be assigned a task. That's correct. So now Paul gets this approval. He has the ability to add notes here. Maybe he clicks through on that journey. If I go back to the thing that's sent, he would click through the approval window instead if he followed that, which would take him to an area where he can not only provide his approval, but also provide some flavor and say, no notes or something along those lines, and click approved as well. Now, once those two approvals are completed, I want to demonstrate that there might be some dependencies. Maybe we don't image the hardware until we've created the D account. You can see that dependency lit up here, but that doesn't mean that tasks can't happen simultaneously. So if I close this down and I open up the facilities tasks, facilities can do their bit as well. They can set up the key card, they can assign a desk without having the IT information all completed all at once. Now that's going to cut down on the time. Now, Queens was saying they get things done a lot quicker. That's because all of the tasks are assigned out when they need to be assigned out. Some of them happen simultaneously. Some of them need to be done in a certain order, but each of them will get done. Now I'm going to just double check on the chat because there's an important question there. Shane, can their line manager be the approver? Yes. Actually, we're going to get into this a little bit later when I show you how the workflow is built. But great question. When I go into the approvals here and I go to that direct manager approval, I actually had this Paul Snelson be pulled in from this field right here. Now, I'm sorry for jumping around a little bit, but I'll show you the form that is required when somebody fills out an onboarding. They come to the self-service portal, they click on onboarding, and they're required to fill in certain information. Manager for approval, new hire start date, and this will all influence the workflow. Whoever they select into this field here, I've had that set up so that it always takes them from this field and populates into this field. So this person, the person who receives the direct manager approval notification, will be whoever was selected as part of that form. Now, you can also have, if you already have that information set up in your Azure, first of all, good for you that you have that information clean within your Azure AD or your local AD. You can have that information import in, and therefore we can pull from this field here. Now, I'm a demo environment. I'm not actually hooked up to an AD. The request user, Alexander Jameson, does not have a request manager, so that would not have worked. It would fill this field in as empty. But that is another flavor that you guys can use if you have that information already set up. It can streamline the workflow as well. Now just making sure. And there we are. Yep, we're good to go. Uh, Now, one really cool thing that I would just want to show you as a aside, just to show you some of our AI features, and this is something that we're hoping to include as part of the workflows as well. Um, Now, you always have this AI chatbot. Now, that's also available in the classic view, but I think it's available in a different area. I believe it's up here that you would activate that AI chatbot. If I pull out that window pane right there, I have the ability to ask, like, I'm a new user at your organization. I don't know how to create an AD account, and I could tap my manager on the shoulder, or I could use our knowledge base internally to just ask the AI, how do we set up users at this organization? Now we're actually a step past that now, where we can create these automations that actually do that task for you rather than you asking and then switching screens and setting that up. So I've set up one within my environment here where I can create a user within a fake AD that I've created, where I just run this automation here. And what it's going to do is it's going to take the information from this ticket, the user's full name, their manager, what their title will be, and it will actually create that user within Azure AD automatically. Now that's a really cool thing. It's going to, for people who do a lot of onboardings, this is essential because it's going to cut down on time. But think about how you might, streamline this into your process as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be AD. We've got a lot of different automations that can be run. Some of them regarding Intune. So perhaps we need to assign a device in Intune or something like that. Get a list of managed devices, shut down a device if this was an offboarding. But think about, and we can provide, of course, the full list of automations that are available. But just a little bit of an aside that I really like to show off in terms of these onboardings as well, speeds things along. I've created this AD account. Maybe I'll also say, please also add this user to the finance group in AD. And spelling mistakes shouldn't be an issue. I do actually have an automation that I could have run here. If I look for it, manage AD group membership, but I conversationally activated it this time instead of putting in that slash or opening up the toolbox. I just said, hey, can we do this? And obviously it could be done because he was added to this group. Okay. Looks like we're good in the chat. No questions thus far. Or in the Q&A, we're putting it in the chat, which I'm totally fine with as well. It's easier for me to review, to be honest. We will move on from this now that I've kind of shown you what a workflow looks like. Like from here, it's really just a checkbox. Have we done this item? Have we done this item? Have we done this item? And maybe we even have an automation that checks for tickets that are onboarding tickets that are incomplete and we're approaching the new hire start date, so that we get an automatic notification, and that would be done through escalation rules. And I come into this ticket and I can see, okay, IT's done all their work. We just need to do the key card and assign the desk. So maybe I'll follow up with Daryl Mann and the facilities team and make sure that they've done those items so that when I close these two items out, done, and done, and refresh this ticket here, the ticket will automatically close, and there's no need for somebody to come back and audit it. It's a completed ticket. If we need to come back later and review the work of somebody, we could, of course, see who did what task, but this is now a completed ticket, and therefore you guys can focus on other items. Okay. From here on, we're going to go into the basic building blocks of solving a ticket, building one together from scratch. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a template. Now, there is a template assigned to this. The way I would access it is I would go to the right-hand corner, click on the template name here, and this is the template builder where I can add new items here. So say I wanted to include the CC field as part of this onboarding ticket, click there, drag it in from the left-hand side and save the template. And if I go back to the ticket, now I have that CC field available for use. I can also go into the template and access the add workflow button right here, and that will affect the right-hand side of the ticket. So all the actions that needed to be done, you can see here the 2 approvals that we did, the 3 tasks for IT, the 2 tasks for facilities, and then a complete and rejected. These are just auto steps that happen as well. But we're going to create one from scratch. So the way that we're going to do that, and I will answer the question that I saw just come in just a second, is we're going to go to, I'll go to the queue first because that's naturally where people are going to go. Go to the settings button. This will be available to the builders of the system, or you could call them the super admins, but not necessarily analysts of the system. Click on that settings button, and the first item here under customization is ticket templates and workflows. If you were in Classic, It'd be a little bit different. You'd click on this cogwheel and you would go to this item right here, either incidents, request. It would definitely not be incidents because those can't be workflows, but requests, change, and problem templates to create one from scratch. Now, I'm going to create a new template here, but before I do that, I'm just going to answer the question that came in. Can multiple people in IT be assigned to different tasks in a ticket? How would that affect ticket metrics? Completing the task they also reflect in the closed tickets they have. Good question, Andrew. Actually, it would reflect in a different type of report. So you can report on the number of tickets somebody has closed, but you can also report individually on the number of action items they have closed as well. It would just be a different report type. So to show you that very quickly, go into the reports. I would go into create new report. And rather than report on service records, I would report on action items as well. So you might need to create a report that shows, yes, this is how many tickets they've resolved, but this is how many action items as well they've resolved as well. And you can link those two reports by creating what's called a clustered report by clicking on this, create a new clustered report. So you create those two reports individually, and then I don't want to call it Frankenstein, but you attach those two reports together so you have a full list of everything that they've done. Now back to the area that we were looking at before, ticket templates and workflows. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new template. I'm going to create that same onboarding template that we did before. We're going to go and create new template, click on request, problem, and change, the only ones that can be workflows. And then I'm going to give it a name. New, I'll call this 2025, onboarding template Alex. Then I'll click save. Now you've seen me do this before, but it's also important that I create new sections. That's a new spaces feature. So I'll say like new hire info. Click save. I don't know if it's going to stick. It will. And then I'll put in fields that are important, like the new hire full name is important. New hire start date is obviously going to be important as well. Approving manager for approval. I'll drag that in here as well. And maybe one other item. We'll leave it at that for now, but I've created essentially the basics of what a template should be, which is here are all the important fields. What's also important though is that I make sure that the most important fields are made required as well. So I'll click on those fields, go to the field properties on the right-hand side, make sure that they are required so that if I activate this template, I'm required to fill them out and click save. Awesome. Now, the next item that's going to be important is creating a category and linking it to this. And I'll show you why that's important in just a second. But first, let's just go and show you how it's done. So once I've identified something that requires a workflow, I've created a template for it. I also need to create a category for it. So I'm going to go in here, and I, of course, already have that onboarding category. But I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call this 2025 onboarding. And I'll put general. I'll make it available for everybody in the organization. I'm going to make sure that's only a request because I think it's better. Some things are incidents and requests, but in this case, their onboardings are only ever requests. They're not really incidents. It's not a problem when an onboarding comes up. And the important thing here is that I select the default template. So that means every time that this category is selected, whether that's by an admin or by an end user, the right template is going to load and the right workflow will load as well. So if I come in here and I look for that, I might need to log out, log back in order to make this work. In fact, I imagine I will. I'll just apply this one for now. Click done. And I'm just going to quickly log out and log back in so that my new template is available on that list. Okay, we'll look for that 2025 category I had before. I'm going to go to the default. 2025 onboarding Alex, done. Awesome. Now, why is that important? It's important because when I select certain categories, I want that to automatically apply. So if a user comes in and they go to submit a request and they were to select HR, onboarding, it automatically fills in the right form. Here are all the questions that we need to ask. The other part to that is, as an admin, if you come in here and you create a new ticket, You want to create a request type ticket and you put in those same fields. In this case, I'll use the ones that I just created, 2025 onboarding general. I'm presented with fill in this information if this is the type of ticket that you would like to submit. And with that, that was a very basic step, but I think it's very important if you're going to start the workflow. So don't miss that step. There are fields or there are settings that you can use in order to, that you need to have in order for that to work. This is the one right here. It's called category-driven templates. Therefore, any sort of default templating that you have set up, uh, it will automatically apply when the categories are selected. And I don't have to go in when I'm creating an onboarding ticket and select from the template list. Because there might be a number of templates that are not even getting used that I have to scroll through in order to find. Now, I'm going to look at the questions that we have here. I already answered the Andrew one. I recall having to make the template changes in both the subtype and the request form. That is still the case in Spaces. So subtypes have gone away. You don't need to, you go into the template in order to add the fields that you would like to add, Samuel. And I kind of demonstrated that already. But what you still need to do is what is available on that 2025 onboarding template or the things that you need to select is not necessarily what you want the user to select. You might want them to only select 5 fields instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the settings for that. We're going to go into the request submission form, select the template that you're interested in editing. In this case, it would be 2025 onboarding template. And you can see that mine's still very basic. It doesn't, change based on the template. I could edit this if I would like to and change the fields, but for this, I think that everybody is pretty up on that. They know how to edit these forms. So that wasn't necessarily something I was going to review today, but I think you kind of have the right idea. You asked if do we have to change the request submission form? Absolutely, you do need to change that for the users as well. John asked another good question that I was going to get to, which is custom fields. Yes, absolutely. That's important as well. Everybody's onboardings are different. You're going to create different lists. You're going to create different fields. And if I come into the ticket templates and workflows, we'll go to my 2025 onboarding template, and I don't find something on the left-hand side. Really easy to create a new field. You're going to go back to the settings, and right underneath ticket templates and workflows, you have custom fields here. If you want to create one, you're going to go into the service record here or CI. The big difference here, I'll get to a little bit later, but service record fields that you create, those are going to be available on the ticket. If you have them within the mini ticket, they actually have to be created a second time, and they're called action item fields instead. But this is normally where you'd create most of yours is under service record. You come in, you create new, you give it a name, determine what type of field it's going to be, and then the DB field name, all that matters is that it's lowercase and there's no spaces. And there is a character minimum and maximum. But once you've created that, after a time, because it does need to write to the cloud, it will become available on that left-hand side scroll wheel that we were looking at before over here that you can drag and drop into the field. And if an agent is assigned to an action item, can they see that in their assigned tickets queue? Not necessarily. There's an entire queue that's dedicated for action items as opposed to tickets. So if an admin wanted to see their action items versus their tickets, they would go to this area instead, the SR actions. And we're working on updating the UI of this because I believe that that's important to match the same UI that we have here. But as of today, that was also available in Classic as well. Okay. Now, ticket templates and workflows. Just one sec here. We have appropriately created ones. So I'm going to go ahead and create a ticket now. We'll go into request. I'll select the correct categories, which will in turn select the right template for me. Great. We're going to put in Alex Trebek, or actually we'll put in somebody. Yeah, why not? He's being onboarded at the end of the month. And his manager is Absrana. And then there might be some other custom fields that I need to fill in here as well. Generally, the support team might be assigned to this. Oh, onboarding for Alex Trebek. Okay, we've got our first Q&A as well. Yep, we'd answered that one already. So I'll let Tanya answer Samuel's question in the Q&A. Go back to the chat and Yes, Christopher, we'll show you how to assign the correct notification to the action item now as we build a workflow out together. Okay, we're going to talk now about building the flow. Now, before I showed you, we've got this ticket ready. It looks good, great, but it's the right-hand side is definitely lacking. One approval, and it doesn't actually, even if I open this up, you can see it's 0 of 0. There's no actual workflow attached to this. So what we're going to do in order to edit that is we're going to go into the right-hand side over here, click on the template name as we did before, and rather than edit the left-hand side, we're going to edit by clicking on this Add Workflow button. So this is a pretty basic workflow as it stands right now. There's nothing inside of it. So I'm going to create a couple new tabs as I did before, IT tasks, maybe facilities tasks as well, the same way I had before. And then I'll create a closure tab as well for those automated items. And now it's up to me to fill these different stages of the workflow with the actions that need to happen within. So we wanted 2 levels of approval before. If you have created those action items in the past, they will be available for you for use in the future as well. So in that other workflow, I created that action item called HR approval. In order to access all of the action items that I've created or create new ones, I'm going to click on the left-hand side tab, search for HR approval, and just drag and drop it in there. Why that's important is it saves me a little bit of time. All the right fields are already included on here. You can see who's assigned to it, new hire full name, job position. These are all important things for the workflow. And I'll click save. And that will influence, if you remember before, I'm just going to open it up in a separate tab. If I went to that onboarding template. For Alex Trebek. Actually, sorry, not for Alex Trebek. We wanted to go to the other one instead, which is closed. So I'll need to open up my filters. The fields that are available on the left-hand side, those don't really ever change once you've set up the template correctly. But the ones that are available within each mini ticket are. So for example, we have Stephen Mayer, Finance Director, all this information included within the mini task, including the ability in the Direct Manager Approval one to add notes. So if we come back to the Workflow Designer here, and I wanted to give HR also the ability to add notes, I would have to add that to their mini item right here, maybe even make it a required field in order for them to close out this action item. But in this case, probably not. Now, if I wanted to create a new one, say I didn't have that direct manager approval step, instead of searching for the one that I already have, I'm just going to create a new one right here. I'm going to call it a certain thing, direct manager approval. Copy that over onto this one as well, and then fill it with the particular items that I need. So new hire full name is probably going to be important here. Position and title is going to be important here, or job position. The due date of when this needs to be done, and approved, and notes. That would replicate what we had before. And then again, I'm going to click on approved and make it a required task in order for this to be done. Now that we have these 2 items, assignment was something that came up earlier. I can't remember who it was who asked, but they had asked, can I have the manager automatically assigned to a certain task? So there's 2 ways of going about this. The HR approval, that's always going to go to the HR group. So we're going to hard code it in as they are the approvals of this step, the approvers of this step. So I'm going to enter this action item right here, click on edit action item. I'm going to go to the admin group and I'm going to say the default value is HR and click save. So every time this loads, it will always go to HR. For direct manager approval, it's a little bit more complex. I'm going to click on this, click on data population instead, and I'm going to say whoever was selected on the service record from the manager approval stage or the manager approval field, that is who is going to be the assigns to of this item. And then we say how it populates, so it can overwrite, or it can overwrite only if it's not already completed. Somebody filled it in manually. I'll put it in as overwrite. And then when does this happen? Usually when the action item is activated. So when the notification is getting sent out, when the HR approval is completed. Click on that, click add, and click save. Now, data population is very important for that. It's also important for items that they need to know about. Like they need to see the new hire full name. We're also going to need to populate that off of the service record as well. So we'll go into data population, click on service record, take the new hire full name, and populate that into the new hire full name item on this ticket or this mini ticket as well. And click add. Now just double checking the chat. Looks like we're good to go. Okay. Now we've got them both selected. So HR will always receive the first step. The direct manager will be whoever was selected on the service record, but we need to select the right notifications as well. In order to do that, we're just going to click on the overall space. You don't have to click on this. You just click on the overall space of the action item, and that'll pop up this window here where we can change the status when this gets activated. For example, if it hits the HR approval stage, I likely want it to go into in approval process and click done. But I also, when this is activated, want a notification to be sent. In this case, I've got a number of notifications that I've already created where I can select HR onboarding approval as the notification type that gets sent. Click done. And same thing for direct manager approval. I want a specialized notification being sent. Therefore, I go into notification ID, I select onboarding manager approval, and that's the notification that will be sent to the direct manager instead. So that's how those people will be notified via email or via text or however you guys would like to set that up. Now, in order to set up those notifications and add to that list, what you're going to do is go back to the settings area. And if I search workflow in the settings here, I can go to the notifications area and workflows. This will give me a list of all the ones that I've already created. So for HR onboarding approval, for instance, if I click into this one here, it sends an email, no SMS. It doesn't create a service record on top of anything. Those are features that rarely get used, but sometimes in a complex workflow they might. And then I'll go into the mail details. So this is what it's going to say each and every time. It's going to send to whoever's assigned to the action item, whoever the admin group that's assigned to it is, which is HR, that's hard-coded. This will be the mail subject line. This will be the message that gets sent. And the only complex part here, which we have documentation around so that can help you, is normally you're going to want to have wildcards in there, like things like, well, what was selected as the new hire full name as part of that custom notification? So we have documentation around how you can get that particular field that you want wildcarded into that notification here. Just by going to, I believe, help documentation here. I can access that area. There we go. Nope, we're going to have to go to workflow notifications here. There might be in different area. I'm sure that's something that we can follow up with you. Tanya, even if you are able to access the area with the wildcards, you can put that in the chat for everybody so they can save it. But once I've created a new one, once I've created a new workflow notification, that will become available on this list here that I will be able to access. Okay, just double checking. Yep, we're good to go. No further questions. The next item is actually quite easy. So it's just creating the flow between the items. So after HR approval, I want it to come to direct manager approval. All I need to do that is click on the red triangles on either side here. It doesn't matter which one you click, and drag and drop it onto the item that you want it to go to after this one is completed. Drag and drop it on here, click on completion. So when this item is completed, it comes here. Now that's the simple part of it. The more complex part is I only want it to come to direct manager approval if the approval was yes. So now that I've created the linkage between the items, I'm going to click on direct manager approval. I'm going to go to the dependencies, and you can see that this has been created automatically by my drag and drop. After HR approval, on completion, come here. But I'm going to click on this to add a little bit more flavor to it. I'm going to say add the condition that the approved must be equal to yes in order for it to move from here to there, and click done. So if the approved is no, it stops at HR approval and it doesn't go any further. I would say here that it actually requires the ability to create alternative flows. So if I wanted to close this ticket, I would come here and I would say HR approval can also go to ticket auto closure if the approval is equal to no. So no matter what happens, no matter what selection is made on that first step, it's going to action the ticket in a certain way. It's either going to close this ticket. I can go to autocomplete, and when this is completed, change the ticket to closed, usually request rejected. So it lets the person know, okay, this was a rejection here. I better click save on that. Autocomplete, close rejected, go to the bottom and click done. Or if they say yes, it moves the workflow forward. And at this point, I think you have all of the things that you need in order to create a new workflow. Of course, we're going to add new steps here. Create AD account, I think is a step that I've already created. I would drag and drop it here. I would need to image the hardware of the machine as well. That can come after create AD account. Key card was another one that we had on our previous workflow as well. I'll have that come, instead of coming through create AD account, it comes automatically after direct manager approval. And desk was the other one that I had set up here as well. And I will have that come directly from here as well. Okay. Now, in order to finish off this workflow here, I am going to have to add some additional dependencies like direct manager approval. That will also move to ticket auto closure. If the approved is equal to no, we need both of those approvals. In fact, I'm probably going to need to add a couple more dependencies, like, for example, create AD account. That is going to need that approved equal to yes. Same thing goes for key card as well. The approved is going to need to be equal to yes. Assign desk, approved, equal to yes. And now that I've got all those dependencies, once all these items are completed, we can reasonably assume that the workflow is closed. So I'm going to say complete, drag and drop that action item in here. And now we're going to have a number of different items. Instead of a flow like this one goes here, then it goes here, all of these items, if they are completed, come to complete. And if all of these items are completed, the imaging of the hardware, which comes after AD account, so we can reasonably assume that one's completed. The key card is done, the assigning of the desk is done, and you can see here the dependency is equal to and, therefore all of these tasks need to be done instead of just one of them. Then we can do the same thing that we did with the auto closure before. When this activates, we're going to change the status to request equals completed, and we're going to make it an autocomplete item. And maybe it'll even send a specialized notification back to the request user, letting them know, hey, your onboarding has been completed. In this case, I don't have that notification created, but that is how you would complete the workflow. All right. So now that the workflow is completed, we can test it out, make sure and see if there were any errors that I'd made along the way that I can troubleshoot live with you guys. But let's create that new workflow. I'm going to select the categories as one would. Oh, I need to select the type, request, 2025 onboarding, therefore the right template loads. Alex Trebek, hired at the end of the month. Manager for approval is Contreras. Actually, I'll set it to myself. I want to show you guys what it looks like on the self-service portal as well. So I will be the manager in this case. Abs Rana is the request user. Support is the general group that's overseeing this. And click create. Okay, that new ticket has been created. You'll notice you'll already see a difference in the one that I created now versus the one that I created before. Instead of going into new status, which is what the original one did, it went into in approval process. Reason being was because if I go back to our workflow, one of the smaller items that I did was in that first step of HR approval, I said, when this item activates, change the ticket status to in approval process. This automatically creates notifications as well. So it can be very helpful for letting the request user know where their ticket is in the process. In fact, I probably should have changed the status here so that when the key card or the create AD account activates, that means that this ticket is in progress, which will automatically notify the request user as well. Now back to the ticket that we are working on. If I enter it now, of course, a lot more action items to be completed. The HR one auto-activated. What I'm missing here, as you can see, is the data population that I talked about. Now, the data population was the item that I did for direct manager approval, where I said, whoever the manager is, fill into this field. Whoever the new hire is, fill into this field. Now, I set a default for the HR group, but I didn't create those dynamic fill-ins like the data population here, where I take off of the service record whoever the new hire name is, new hire date, fill that into the new hire date on this side as well, or the due date actually was the field we used here. So that's what I'm missing from there, but we'll move forward. I'll say that in this case, HR did approve. Click yes, click complete, which will move us on to the direct manager stage. Now, as you can see, I only created one data population. So the only info we're getting here is that Alex Trebek is the person being hired. I need to create more data population rules for the other items right here. But in this case, we're going to move this forward, and I'm going to click on approved equals yes, which will move it to the next stage. And repopulate this right here while I look at the questions. Slightly off topic, what's the best way to suggest feature requests? Yeah, I'd love to hear what it is. For example, middle mouse click settings to open a new tab with the settings link. Wonder if that can be done. Yeah, you're right. Cannot be done. Yeah, it's an interesting feature. I'd say Tanya is the best one to take that particular one on. Create AD account. Now we need to actually go ahead and create the AD account. I didn't provide any defaults assignees here, so that's why that's missing. But if I were to complete this and move it forward, now that moves on to image hardware. And of course, the facilities items are completed as well. Now, one thing with workflows that'll actually show off to you now is I have the ability to reopen previous steps to restart the workflow from a certain stage. Let's say this got rejected, right? I might need to reopen, instead of creating a new ticket, I just want to reopen this one. I could click on reopen right here and start the workflow from this point right here as well, which is something that I think has been improved from classic to spaces. What is Andrew asks, what is the recommended way to assign these workflow tickets? If multiple agents are working on one ticket, who should the overall ticket be assigned to? I personally create routing rules for a group, like an onboarding group, so that everybody, especially in a visibility environment where you have like, these people can only see these tickets and these people can only see these tickets. I usually create what's called an onboarding group, which includes a number of different admins so that everybody has access to see this ticket and they don't get an error if they look up ticket number 5286. And also from that standpoint, I mean, there's a bigger group who handles those tickets. It's a little bit easier to parse when you're doing reporting as well, because there's not just one person who's assigned to this entire ticket. But one thing you could do, which is kind of interesting, is if you assign somebody to these particular steps here, whoever you assign here could also back populate to the assignee here. The workflow, if I go to the workflow to demonstrate what that looks like, you could back populate from create AD account. Whoever you assign to this task could be the assignee. I'll work this backwards. Whoever gets assigned as the assignee of this ticket or this action item could go backwards to assign to the ticket as well. So yeah, you can set it up that way. There are a number of ways that you could do it. You could also have it so that whoever is assigned to the ticket gets assigned to the IT tasks, because generally IT is the one who's mostly using this. And the key card and assigned desk, those are more like notifications to people who aren't part of the service desk, but they do need to be involved. But yeah, it does depend on how you guys have your system set up and how you guys want your onboardings to go. But yeah, I've now reopened that task HR approval. So all that work I did before where I moved it from direct manager approval forward has now been undone. And now we're starting from scratch. You know, the notification for HR gets resent. The items here need to be redone. And again, if I click on no here and click complete, if I refresh this ticket, the ticket should have been closed with request rejected. So that was the other workflow that we could have done. It looks like actually in this case, I did not set it up correctly because the status is still in approval process. So I'll just double check that there. And I know why it is actually already. So I made an error that this is one that gets missed quite often. This and or right here. I wanted this to activate and close the ticket as close rejected if this one was no or this one was no. But I have it set up in my dependencies so that both of them need to be no. And that could never be the case because as soon as one turns no, the ticket is no. So if I click on or here and I were to rerun the ticket, now if either one of these is met, it will close this ticket automatically. And yeah, that takes us to the end of the session today, guys. Happy to answer any other questions. We said that we were going to leave time for Q&A here as well, but I hope that the session was helpful for you guys. I understand that there's a mix of different UIs here, and sometimes that can get confusing as well. But feel free to reach out to us via email, whether it's myself, Cindy, Tanya, Ella, who is in the back end, making sure that these demos run smoothly. Yeah, if you learned anything here today, which I hope you did, let us know in the chat as well, and appreciate you taking an hour of your time this morning or this afternoon to go through workflows with us. Can you assign a task to an outside vendor? Absolutely. Yeah, so you just need to create that vendor within the system. I have created workflows in the past where I've set up vendors in the system like CDW, soft choice, and therefore maybe as part of this area right here, like the way we select approval manager. Maybe you have a field instead that is a relational list of users, but it's restricted to just like 3 different users, which are like maybe CDW, soft choice, and that will influence who the assigned to is when you do the data population. So this field would be filled in whoever the request user supplier requested would be the person who receives the assigns to action item and receives the notification as well. And just double checking the chat. Will this be published somewhere? I believe that this entire session was recorded, absolutely. Uh, and it should be published somewhere. I don't know if you guys will receive a link or if it will be published on our website. But again, thank you for all the Q&As and things of that nature. We really appreciate it and helps me understand where you guys falter as well, or where not even falter, but where you guys would like us to build the product or make it a little bit easier to understand. So appreciate that. Okay, Alice said, yeah, we're sharing the recording with you in the upcoming days. So, okay. With that, guys, thank you for the feedback. We'll close out the session. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. ITIL package. Hey, Frank, or Jason, I see your message. I'll follow up. ITIL package shading, migration phase to the cloud. Okay. I will pass that on to Tanya so she could follow up with you on that one.